Hello, welcome to Introduction to the Visual Arts. Today we're going to look at the artwork entitled Streak. It is in the style of op art. It's done by the artist Bridget Riley. It was painted in 1979. So now the question is, what exactly does this art mean? Well, the op artists were not so much about deep-seated meanings behind their art. They were just trying to give you a visual experience. It's the pleasure of sight, takes you by surprise. That's what Bridget Riley said about it. And so when you look at this, because of the curvy lines, though they're not only in one color, they're in red and blue, they seem to undulate in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And so by that technique, she gives you the feeling of movement. So in this project that we're going to do today, which will reference the work of Bridget Riley, her painting Streak, what we're going to try to do is work with line, which is one of the elements of art, and we're going to try to create our own referential work based on Bridget Riley. So let's get started. Now, the first thing that I would like to show you is I would like to show you some finished artwork that was created by other students in former Intro to the Visual Arts class. I will put that aside for a moment, and now I'm going to get some of the work out. Now, the reason that I like to do this, that I like to show you work of previous art students, is because if you see what other people have done, it kind of gives you a frame of reference as to what you're trying to achieve. And also, it should give you confidence, because if you look at this and you say, well, other students have done this, I can do this too. So we are going to work on our line drawing based on Bridget Riley's op art piece called The Streak. Now, this one, you can see where this artist took lots of different colors. And so that is a choice that you have too. The beauty of art is that everybody does the same project or gets the same set of instructions and then creates something completely different. And that's really, really a lot of fun. In math, everybody's supposed to get the same idea or the same answer, but in art, everybody takes a set of tools, a set of rules, and they create something, and it's entirely different than everybody else's artwork. And so that is really, really very enjoyable. Here's another one where this person used black and white and silver and used the white of the paper and outlined the lines with marker. So you have carte blanche. Once I tell you how to do the project, and then if you want to do it a different way, or if you want to try a few things and you think I have a better idea, I highly encourage you to do that. So with that, we will get started in how to create the artwork. Okay, let's get started on the Bridget Riley line project. You'll need a piece of 9x12 drawing paper out of your multimedia pack. Now, your multimedia pack will look different than my multimedia pack, but that's perfectly all right. You just need a sheet of paper from your pack. So now I'm going to put this aside, and here I have my piece of 9x12 paper. I have it in front of me. The other supplies that you're going to need is you're going to need a ruler. And you might have a nice metal ruler with nice metal edges, or this is just a very inexpensive plastic ruler. It'll work as well. If you are working with really long paper, you'd probably want a really long ruler. But as long as the ruler is as long as the paper you're working with, it should work perfectly well. Now, we're going to draw a border on our paper after we get started here in a few minutes, because when you draw borders on your paper, it is one way to make your art look more professional, and it just makes it look nicer if you use a border. So we'll talk about that in a second. The next thing that you're going to need is a number 2 pencil of some sort. Now, these are very ratty number 2 pencils, and they'll work just fine. But if you have a very nice, fine mechanical pencil, that'll work as well. But I don't like to use mechanical pencils myself because I push hard when I draw and I'm always breaking off the lead. But if you have a finer touch, they're perfectly fine to use. The other thing that you're going to need is you're going to need some colored pencils. Now I have just chosen 3 colored pencils, but you can use any color that you wish. But I would just say limit yourself to maybe no more than 5 colors. And your 5 colors could include black. Now black isn't technically called a color in art, but we'll call it one of your colors. So no more than 5. Now, I don't know if you know this about colored pencil, but if you take a colored pencil and you put it in a pencil sharpener and you try to sharpen it that way, the pencil sharpener is extremely aggressive. And what it will do lots of times, not always because there's always exceptions, is you'll end up breaking off the lead, and you'll be breaking off the lead until you have a little stubby pencil left, and you'll be very frustrated. So I know that these pencil sharpeners were not included in your pack, but you can get them fairly cheaply. There will be some things as we go along that were not included in your pack. Now you can get along without them, but if you get them, they will make your life easier. So with that, we're going to start doing the first step in creating our Bridget Riley drawing where we're trying to make line move. Okay, as we continue now, I'm going to set these aside so I have more room. I have my 9 by 12 sheet of paper in front of me, and what I have done here while just a little bit ago, I wasn't on camera doing this, but I made some dots. I found a 1/2 inch on my ruler. The 1/2 inch mark is right here on my ruler, and I made some dots on the edge of my paper that are a 1/2 inch. Now, if you're using a very, very large piece of paper, you can cheat a little bit and just put your ruler down like this on the edge and then trace along the edge of your ruler. But because we're using a small piece of paper, we don't want the margin or the border to be too wide. So after you have your dots on your paper, then you'll just want to lay your ruler on those dots and you simply connect the dots until you have a nice margin on your paper. And you want to do this all the way around. Now, sometimes when people are putting margins on their paper, they want to do things like this. Let me just show you. Let me finish here and I'll show you something not to do, because there's a couple of things you don't want to do. You want to make your borders look nice and crisp. You don't want to have overruns like this. Can you see this overrun? Okay, let me move my paper down here so you can see the overrun. This is called an overrun. You don't want to do that. And another thing that you do not want to do is you do not want to do this. Sometimes people want to do that kind of thing and make a picture frame. You don't want to do that. That is something that you did when you were in 6th grade, and you don't want to do that anymore. Now you want to make it look nice and professional. So you want to try not to have overruns, and you want to try not to have little diagonal lines here, and you want to try not to decorate the borders. The decorated borders, again, are something you can do because every rule you can break. But when we begin, it's easier, your work will look more professional when you begin if you don't decorate the borders. But there are some exceptions to the rule, and I will talk about some of those exceptions later. Now we have our border. Okay, I'm going to try to get this right in frame. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do when you have your border drawn and you've got the borders connected and it's all clean. Now, another thing that I want to tell you about when you draw with pencil. What happens when you draw with pencil is the graphite smears. And so you can smear your artwork really, really quickly and easily. So try not to smear it. And there is a way not to smear your artwork, which I will show you in just a second. But before I do that, I want to show you the next step. So the next step in getting your Bridget Riley drawing is to draw a line and just draw a scribble. and I'm just drawing very gradual S-curves. Now, you can make these S-curves really deep if you want to, or you can have them kind of gradual. It really depends on up to you. Now, if you do make them really, really deep, your artwork will be quite complex, which is fine, but it might take you a little bit longer and you might become just a little bit frustrated. But I do not discourage you from making deeper S-curves. I just want you to know that it might be slightly more challenging. Now, if you don't want to smear your artwork, one of the things you can do is when you're working on something, put a piece of paper down, and so that your hand is on the piece of paper rather than smearing your line. Because one of the things about good art is you want to keep it clean. There's nothing pleasing about dirty art if it's not saying something about an idea or a feeling. So try to keep it as clean as possible. And we'll talk more about expressive lines and dirty art later on, someplace else in this course. All right, so now you have your curved line, and it doesn't have to look like mine. By all means, just do what works for you. Everybody has their own feeling when it comes to a line, and just go with what feels good. But you do want to hit your margin on both ends. It's best to keep it out of the corners, if you will. And then once you have a line, go ahead and put I'd say about 7 random dots on this line, just any place you want to put them on the line. Now, I would suggest that you stay away from putting them on this tangent right here where the line intersects the border, and I would do that on both sides. So I would keep the dots out of those places. Let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I always like uneven numbers, but you can use even numbers if you wish. All right, so now we have our dots, and we're going to go to the next step.